episode of Dial It Up. Today is going to be a tough one, mostly for me, trying to explain it all to you. Now, we've already talked before about how important wording is in this game. This game is all about words, and words that normally mean the same thing in general English do not mean the same thing in Heroclix language. Now, I'm going to touch on that today with can use, can't used, possessed, countered, ignore, can't be ignored. Whole bunch of things all in one episode, so bear with me as I go through them. Now, the first thing I'm going to touch on is counter. Now, the most common way to counter power is through outwit. Now, in the wording of the outwit power, it says that you can counter a power that a character possesses. Now, what does a character possess? A character possesses anything that shows on their actual dial. Now, they might have a special power, a white power that was shown in a white box. Sometimes white powers say that they possess this power. Sometimes it says that they can use this power. Either way, they possess the special white power, which means that even if that special white power says that they can use this power, and this power, they possess the white power. So you can counter the white special power, but not the individual powers that say they can use. Now, other things will allow them to say that they can use a power, such as an entity, or a relic, or a resource. These are things that are going to be added on to this character, giving them powers from outside of their actual dial. And more often than not, those are worded can use. So if a power can use, if a character can use a power from some outside source, they don't possess that power. And you can only counter powers that can be possessed. So that one's not necessarily straightforward, but that one's a little bit easier to go over. The other thing is the block to that would be any character that has Power Cosmic or Quintessence, which is a team ability that says that this character's powers can't be countered. So basically, it just keeps this character from outwit. And the other thing that characters possess are their combat values. Combat symbols. Combat symbols are anything that's printed on the dial. So if a character has Indomitable, you can counter that Indomitable. If they have Sharpshooter, counter that. If you have Flight, counter that. Improved Movement is actually a combat symbol that can be countered, although traits cannot. So while talking about combat symbols, the Power Cosmic, because it was a team ability from very back in the day and has not been updated, Power Cosmic does not stop combat symbols from being outwitted or countered in this case. So even someone with, like our White Phoenix Hope here, who has Power Cosmic, her Flight is still subjected to be countered. Even though she has Power Cosmic, it just keeps her powers from being countered. You can't outwit that Impervious, but sure, outwit her Flight. So that was a bit on the possessed, can use, and counter. In this game, a can't will always trump a can. So if something can't be countered, when you can counter it, the can't is going to trump. So Power Cosmic will trump outwit. Now, I showed a little bit of Malekith. Malekith has a special power that once he hits someone, they can't use their their defense abilities. So that can't is going to trump the can. Now, he's also been ruled that he only affects anything that's on your dial. The standard defense abilities, so anything that's showing on the dial you can't use. So normally your dial would say, I can use this. Malekith says, no, you can't use that. That's going to bring us to ignore. Now, ignore has, a lot of people have been having problems contemplating ignore, because ignore is a huge thing in this game. And the big thing about ignore is pulse wave. Pulse wave is kind of become the end-all be-all. If something is bothering you, pulse wave it. If there's a power that can't be countered, pulse wave it. Because countering a power and ignoring a power is not the same thing. So a pulse waver that can ignore a power is going to ignore your power cosmic. So your powers aren't being countered, they're being ignored. But then that also brings us to characters who say their powers can't be ignored. And like I was saying, can't will always trump can. So when you have a pulse waver that's going to ignore everything, if your power says it can't be ignored, guess what? That pulse wave isn't going to affect you. So that also brings into things like special traits, special powers that work on the characters themselves, like Solomon Grundy or Bizarro, where it affects kind of the way that they're KO'd, how they're dealt damage, stuff like that, where Solomon Grundy's resurrection power can't be ignored. So if you pulse wave him to try and kill him, it can't be ignored, so he's still going to come back. With Bizarro, his trait on his Orazib tokens can't be ignored. So you can pulse wave him for all the damage you like, but he's still only going to take that one token. The other thing with Bizarro is that he can ignore characters for movement. With the ignoring, with these improved movements, improved targeting, all of this ignore, it's as if those things aren't there. So you're going to go around ignoring characters, moving around, doing what you will, sidestepping, charging, hypersonicking through these characters as if they weren't there. There are very few things that gets around this ignore characters things. One of them is the ultimate Clayface, which I don't have. The other one is a piloted GCPD cruiser who can't be automatically broken away from and can't be ignored for movement purposes with its plasticity. It's got that special. So in this case, Bizarro still has to break away from the cop car if it's piloted. But any other case, he's just going to ignore it. So talking about ignored, and much like the power cosmic, which can't be countered, can still be ignored, a power that can't be ignored can be countered. So when you come up against a character like, say, the Weaponer of Quard, who has that stop click that can't be ignored, you're not going to be able to pulse wave him off of that stop click or ignore that stop click, but if he's on it, you can counter it. So he's still susceptible to outwit, but not susceptible to pulse wave. So it's that kind of back and forth between the ignore and the counter, where normally they would mean the same thing. Most people would think they'd mean the same thing, but in the particulars of this game, they do not. So when something can't be ignored, it may be able to be countered, and something that can't be countered can probably be ignored. Unless you're this guy.
Then it's neither.
Then it's neither. And then fuck this guy. Because you just kind of have to deal with him. He can't be countered. He can't be ignored. So that's all I pretty much have to say on this for you guys. If you have any questions or comments, if there's anything you think that I didn't cover, let me know in the comments below. If there's anything you guys want to see me go over in the next few episodes, let me know, and I'll take it into consideration. Maybe do an episode on something you guys need a ruling on, or explain how a character or a specific mechanic works.